asset-based instruction or strengths-based teaching. Asset-based instruction focuses on students' strengths and potential instead of weaknesses. It's moving away from a deficit-based teaching model, highlighting students' shortcomings, and instead highlighting students' strengths and how they can build from those. But how do you find out what areas students can show growth or what they already know? You can always do diagnostic learning activities, meaning you do in-class activities to find out what students know and already can do. Some examples are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Those are areas of focus, right? But then vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, comprehension, and language functions can be seen from those different types of activities as well. When doing an activity, for example, a speaking activity, maybe coming from a reading activity, you could then see what students know for vocabulary, how they talk about it, you can see grammar, and then also how they talk about it, it'll show their comprehension, but also what can they do with language for language functions? Can they retell a story? Can they talk about the characters? Whenever doing these activities, you definitely want to do constant, informal, and formal assessment, but I like to talk a lot more about the constant informal assessment. When you're doing an activity, you can see what they're doing. You're assessing them as it's happening. Maybe you take some notes. Maybe you take those notes and then practice more activities. Formal assessment is great. It usually happens at the end. Sometimes it's during the activity, it's a writing or a formal speaking. Those are great as well. But another option is having a diagnostic assessment. This is something that maybe is already pre-made by you or somebody else has made it, and you're giving this diagnostic assessment to gain information. So, for example, teachers can get the information on student strengths and build learning around those strengths. So, for example, we have this chart from a diagnostic assessment. In green, you'll see the vocabulary, the grammar, the comprehension, the language functions that the students already know, the can-dos. But in red, you'll see the students' areas that need some work, like parts of the house under vocabulary, opposites and occupations, under grammar, negation, irregular plurals, and then comprehension, factual recall, and then language functions, maybe recommending what someone else can do. So what do you do with a chart like this though? So in green, you can take the students' knowledge. For example, students already know household items and they know tools in this first chart. They can then use those items to then maybe talk about parts of the house or building parts of the house. You can definitely talk about opposites with classroom items or clothing, right? Shirt versus pants. You could also talk about the occupations, that's the clothing for occupations, the tools for an occupation. Build from what students already know. So teachers can take those strengths and that existing knowledge to bridge into those areas of need. All right, so with this chart, you can also identify areas that might need introduction, reinforcement, and repetition. But if teachers have already covered those areas, it can also help where reteaching needs to happen. Sometimes as teachers, we are in a curriculum and we just follow it, right? Step by step by step, and we keep going. We trust that there's already a scope and sequence involved, which is great. But sometimes we need to step away and target instruction for a quick review before testing, or targeted instruction to help students build upon what they know, and then maybe where we can build from. So if you use a certain scope and sequence and you look at the chapter topics, the appendices, the learning objectives, you can then figure out how to use this chart and find where those activities are or those sections in your existing curriculum or another curriculum to target those specific areas of reteaching or refinement. And then you are doing asset-based instruction. All right. Have a great day. Bye.